Hey, good morning. It's Andy Henderson, live from Forward Thinking. Today's live is about culture. People say culture eats strategy for breakfast. I don't think it's true. I think you need both, because to have a good workplace culture, it's got to have, high morale, motivation, responsibility, trust, creativity, responsiveness, flexibility, and that's, builds high performance in your team. How can you have a high performing team if there's no strategy for them to perform and measure against? So we've got to integrate the two. Culture is massive. Culture is the beating heart of your organization. And if you get it right, it's going to absolutely help you run a great business. It's going to be a great place to work. It's going to be a great place to be a customer. And it's not that hard to do. I know as a leader myself in the past, it felt overwhelming. I didn't used to be a good leader. I used to be a pretty bad leader. I used to tell everyone what to do. I used to think that I had to have all the answers because I was the boss. I couldn't let anyone see any weakness inside. But actually the opposite is true, because in order to start the process, it's about asking. It's about showing your vulnerability. And if you've got a culture now where people just turn up to work for money, they come in at 1 minute to 9, they leave at 5 o'clock, they look at the job description and make sure they do that satisfactorily, because that's the bargain, right? That's the bargain that you struck when you employed them. The bargain that you struck was if they perform these tasks and roles and responsibilities satisfactory, then you would pay them at the end of the month. But what you don't want to run a satisfactory business. I don't. I never have done. I want to own a business that's high performing, that's full of belief, and people all working together behind the board, at the side of the board, really pushing forward and doing it together. A workplace full of meaning and progress. The key to it all, like I said, is almost like showing that vulnerability. It's understanding that as a leader, you don't have to have all the answers. You shouldn't have to tell everyone what to do. When the vision is so clear, people understand the part that they play in that vision in executing against it, then you should never really need to tell anybody what to do ever again. Wouldn't that be a great place to work? If people just worked, they just got it, they could make decisions, they felt part of a collective, a community, doing their life's work, building something and feel part of something bigger than themselves, So how do you start this process? I've got to say to you, when you start it, it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like when you start that someone's ripped all your clothes off and you stood in front of everyone absolutely butt naked. And I know that's exactly how I felt, because when I used to think I had to have all the answers as the boss, when I used to think I had to tell everyone what to do, that was my armor. That was like, I'm a boss, full of armor. You can't penetrate this. But actually, when you start this process and start to begin to understand that actually the people in the business have sometimes better answers than you, and those perspectives and those voices, they matter, not just to you, but to them as well. People need to feel that their voices matter and their perspectives count. And when you start this process, like I say, it feels like you're naked, but actually that's not a bad thing, because it means you've started the process in the right way, which is brilliant. And another thing, before you start this process, and I'm going to tell you how the stages to start, and they're only quick ones, because honestly, to build a great workplace culture, it's to start the process. It's not as difficult as you think. But once you do start, you've got to be committed across the board, because you can't stop it. You just can't stop it. Not that you want to stop it, but you can't stop it, and it's a never-ending process. It's not just a case of, yeah, I've built a great culture, that's it, done, next task. It's not. It's an evolving, ever-growing, ever sort of understanding, ever questioning sort of place to be. But it's so rewarding when you do it. So, like I said, if you've got a culture, 9 to 5, people work for money, they don't work for meaning, they concentrate on income, not impact, they concentrate on, sort of profits and not purpose, they concentrate on stuff like that, then this might just be for you. So how do we do it? So the first way I'd start, and I've done this, it's not like this is my idea. this, in the past when I ran a large IT business, we didn't have a great workplace culture at all, and as a result of some market changes and whatever, the business was going backwards. So it was at its peak, it was 15 million, 14 million, then 13. Then the boss, the owner, said, "UBMD, you run this business. You're ambitious. You've got some good ideas. You need to save it because it's failing." The first thing I did was think that I have to tell everyone what to do, thought that I had to have all the answers. That failed miserably, and the business went backwards again in that year, and I felt wretched about it. So when I actually decided to become the opposite version of myself. So instead of telling everyone what to do, having all the answers, I actually started asking questions, helping, I wanted to understand how people felt about the business. And when I started that, everyone was like, what's Andy doing? He's weird. He's being all weird. But across an organization of 72 people, it's quite difficult to get that insight and get data. So what we did was we did an employee survey. So point one is do a survey and engage someone like Steve Smith at Anthem. He's brilliant. He's got like 5 million data points. He gets culture. He gets employees. He understands why people think how they think, feel how they think, and he understands the root causes in organizations that lead to maybe a toxic workplace culture. So the first thing is do a survey, understand the truth, show your vulnerability, ask the right questions, get the data back, right? Get the data back and start to understand and analyze the data. And as soon as you've got the data, publish something that's almost like you said this is what we're going to do. Now, point two is this is the bit where we're talking about, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's not the case. You need both to create a high-performing culture that is, where people really want to belong. They'll take control of their own success. They'll take control of the success of the business as well without you even telling them. So we've got to create, point two is you've got to create a long-term vision. So through the insights that you get from the people survey, then you start to create a long-term vision if you haven't got one already, almost like a journey, a map. You want to map out from where you are to where you want to be, in 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years, and create a really crystallized vision and then start to communicate the vision. That's point three. So point one, get a survey done, see what your employees are thinking and feeling, get the data and insights, then start to create. Point two is start to create the long-term vision and then communicate the vision, the journey, help everyone understand, from the board down through all the organization, just where are we now? What are the opportunities? What are the obstacles holding us back? What does the future look like that we want to create for this business to impact the clients in a positive way, to impact the people in a positive way, and to do our life's work, meaningful work together? Yeah. Once you've communicated the vision, then it's time for point four. And that's where you'll sit down with everyone on an individual basis to help them understand the part that they play, the vital part that they play in the success of the organization. And obviously, when you paint the picture of the journey of the company and you sit down with your people on a one-to-one basis, you help them understand that journey more specifically. And then point five is to help them understand what their goals might be, help them crystallize their goals and map their goals, their life goals, their knowledge goals and skill goals, their career goals and aspirations. Let's map them against the company journey so that everybody's working together, focused on their own success, which by proxy will lead to the success of the business. So that's point five, using a mapping exercise to help your people on an individual level understand their journey throughout this business, help create aspiration, ambition, help them create a clear line of sight between where they are and where they want to be, and integrate that into the company journey as well. And I promise you, when you do that, amazing things happen. And it's just 5 points. When you start this journey, it's awesome. But like Pringles, once you pop, you can't stop. You just can't start this process. But by the time you get to this point, you won't want to, because at this point, you're probably 6 months in. And when you walk into that business, when you walk into your business after you've started this process, you won't recognize it because the atmosphere will be electric. That's what happened to us. So, when we embarked on this process, it was 6 months after we started creating the vision, sharing the goal, sharing the progress, speaking to people, helping them understand the role in this, doing the survey, getting the insights, all the stuff that I've talked about. 6 months later, people used to come in, our suppliers, external service providers, and they look at me and go, what the hell have you done to this place? It's electric. You know, there's noise. There's productive noise of people producing. There's laughing. There's joking. There's work being done. There's progress being made. And I'm not kidding you. You know, we went from 12 million to 14.6 million to 19 million to 24.6 million in 3 years with 20% less people. Imagine that. We had 72 people at 12 million. We had 48 people at 24.6. Why? Because we created a long-term vision of the future. We shared it with the people. We understood their perspective. Their voice mattered to us. We communicated regularly. We helped people understand their part in the journey. And we didn't stop. Absolutely awesome. And when I think about it, I've got goosebumps thinking about it because it was a brilliant journey. And part of what I do now, it's not just the strategic stuff. It's not just the mapping stuff at the start to create the plan. It's not just helping businesses with the execution and accountability ongoing. It's actually underneath that, it's doing the communication piece with the people. It's doing the mapping exercise with the people so that their personal journey and the business journey is integrated. And it's all about creating that great place to work. What could be better? So a bit of Thursday morning awesomeness there. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you've got any other insights as to, you know, what you've done in your business or ideas that you've got about how you would go about creating a great workplace culture, please let me know. But if it talks about beanbags, slides, fresh fruit and free breakfast, I don't want to know about that stuff because it doesn't work. It's a nice cherry on top when you've got the main stuff done. But if that's workplace culture, if that's a good culture to use, slides, beanbags and stuff, I don't want to know about that because I've seen that in action and it doesn't work. So that's all for me. Thursday, a bit of Sherpa guidance for you. Thursday morning, a bit later than planned. Usually Wednesdays, but I was out all day Success GPSing yesterday, so I couldn't do it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Any input, any comments, just feedback to me. Let me see what you think about the process. Just 5 steps, dead simple, but massively, massively powerful if you lead with your heart. So have a great end to the week. Speak to you all very soon, and I'll be online tomorrow, reflection section, shortly after 4 o'clock.